It's that time. Welcome to Roadmap, how to take 3 listings a week until you're ready for more. Each week we interview a great agent who's consistently taking 2, 3, 4 listings each week. And we've got an exciting guest today, and he's taking a lot more than that, let me tell you. We encourage you to take notes and apply as much of the knowledge as quickly as you can, and then use the copycat principle. Let's jump right in and introduce our guest. Actually, before I introduce our guest today, I want to remind everybody that we're simulcasting the show on the private lead gen group on Facebook. They have over 50,000 members, so we have a large audience there today as well. And we'll be pausing for a commercial message during the show as a thank you to the lead gen folks. So let's welcome our guest today from Nashville, Tennessee and surrounds. A lot of beautiful areas there. Mr. Bernie Gallerani. How are you, Bernie?
How are you? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Good. I'm glad you could be here. I'm excited to pick your brain because spring is around the corner and agents are getting excited. They're taking listings and all of a sudden they're going to go down like dominoes. Their listings are going to sell. It's going to be a pretty exciting time for a lot of people. And I was thinking we could chat. I could pick your brain on a couple things that they should be thinking about as they're going into this period where they're taking listings now. You know, by the end of March, those things are going to start selling. They're going to build up a whole lot of pendings. They're going to have homeless people that they've sold their home. They have nowhere to. They have to take them out or find somebody to take them out. You know, what do they need to think of? And folks, let me first give you some background on Bernie. When I first met him, it was his first year. He moved from Nevada to Nashville, sold 49 homes his first year. Didn't know anybody in town, and now, what's your goal for sales this year?
550.
550. That's several million commission check, several million in commission checks. I can tell you that.
Probably close to $6 million in commission checks.
6 million in commission checks. It's not a bad thing. And so he has people on his team that are also calling buyers for sale owners, past clients, Sphere database, prospective buyers around a listing or things like that. So I wanted to pick his brain on 2 things. What do you do when all of a sudden all your listings sell, and to keep that going like he did on his first year, 49 sales, and ask him when he's working with people that are making these calls, what's some of the course correction? What is he hearing them say often? Because many of us don't know what we don't know. You know, what are they saying that he's able to refine what they're doing so that they just all of a sudden explode? Because a lot of you want to explode this year, even beyond where you are now.
Yeah.
So what do you think about it, Bernie? They're going into spring. We know what's going to happen. They're going to get overwhelmed because all the new pendings, and then there's no time to lead generate. What do you do?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. So I'll talk a little bit about what I do with my group, because that brings it a little closer to home for me. Because I get an opportunity to hang out with them and talk with them and coach with them on a daily basis. So I'll say this to you: the matter of overwhelm that somebody will get is obviously going to be based on the production that they're doing, right? So if an agent comes in and they go out and they list 7 properties or 10 properties, and all those sell within the next 4 to 6 weeks, they're going to go into an overwhelm RIN because they're now feeling like they're managing their deals, and they're going to come up with reasons why they don't want to lead generate, right, or prospect.
Yeah.
So I always say this, you can always find out what's important to somebody based on how committed they are to doing it. So in our group, we always say that you have to commit as a minimum of 2 hours on the phone every day, and that's uninterrupted time on the phone. So it's not answering texts, it's not dealing with emails, it's nothing. It's not calling agents back, agents from our buyers or our sellers on the other side of the transaction. So that 2 hours of business is built for your business. So I actually just had a group of folks that came and shadowed me the other day, and we had this conversation. And I said, you owe yourself, your company, your corporation you owe it to that business to dedicate at least 3 hours every day to that business. And the best way to dedicate that is to say, for 3 hours every day, regardless of how busy I am, I'm going to prospect and lead generate for new business, because eventually when all the stuff you have sells, you're going to have nothing left if you don't spend that time during the time you're busy to lead generate. So here's the question that you asked me, and I'll answer it. I think the person has to be dedicated enough to understand that if they spend their time, their prospecting time managing a deal, and they continue to keep behaving in that manner, then when they're done closing those 7 or 10 or 12 deals for that month and negotiating those offers and communicating with those agents and taking their excuse of saying, I have to put the deal together, and they don't generate, the next month they're going to have zero income. And you can't have zero income and stay in this business. So the key is stay focused regardless of it. Here's what I tell my agents. If an agent is calling you to discuss a file, they're still going to have the same question after 11 o'clock. So wait till after 11 o'clock when your prospecting is done, and then call the client. If the client has a fire, they have to talk to the agent. All that stuff is still going to be a critical conversation that needs to take place most likely after 11. So take care of your business first.
So, and in a funny way, sometimes by 11 o'clock, because they can't reach you, they've solved it.
That's true. That's exactly right. So for our conversation with our agents is listen, and Ren, I got to tell you, we have to tell them all the time. So we, inside of our prospecting centers, which of course you know what it is because you've been there, we have Kurt who basically maintains and watches everything that goes on in there. And he'll come up to them all the time and go, I'm not sure that's lead generating activity right now. Should you be doing that? And he always keeps them, pushes them back into the reality of what they should be doing, because that's a natural behavior for an agent to want to do that, right? And here's the thing. I find that agents would rather do a lot of things rather than lead generate and prospect, right? There's a ton of
human. We want to do something more gratifying. Repetitious boredom can,
That's exactly right. And so I never could blame the agent for feeling that way. I'm never upset with an agent. I just have to keep coaching an agent and saying this. You are preventing your business from continually hitting a home run every month if you allow yourself to service the business. And there's plenty of time to service. So we'll ask them, how much time do you need in your business with pending 10 transactions? How much time every day do you need to continue to keep working with the agent on the other side and or do the paperwork? And well, they'll say anywhere from an hour to 3 hours. So if we're asking them to spend 3 hours on the phone, they still got 2 or 3 hours they can work the files. And then they got 3 or 4 more hours in that day where they can show buyers or go on listing appointments. So if they can make it work, it really is just a commitment issue and a staying on your schedule issue.
Okay, so they can really do their own, so it's your year one. You're not on a team where other people can handle your pendings. You're not on a team where somebody else can handle your buyer. You were able to pull that off as one, or did you pull in a little bit of help?
Well, I had help because my wife came to help with me. So
okay.
I did have my wife there, and she helped with some of the paperwork and things like that.
So they should get married.
Yes. In case my wife is watching, yes. No, I would say this. I still stayed disciplined because I still had, my wife was my assistant for lots of different things like feedback and stuff like that. I was still at that time negotiating all my offers. I do not negotiate a lot of offers anymore. It all happens through my system. But back in the day, I still negotiated offers. I still called all my clients for price adjustments. I still dealt with agents. There was a ton of stuff I still had to do. And in those days, I was on the phone 5 hours a day, lead generating. So I had 5 hours, and then I had a couple hours of communication with the files. And then I showed properties or went on listing presentations. So you can make it work. And I'm not going to tell you that I didn't stumble and that I didn't have issues and that I didn't I had issues trying to figure it out. I did stumble and I did have problems. And I realized how much money it cost me. So it cost me lots of money by not figuring it out. So I had to figure it out.
So really, in a way, in a year one, year two, where you're at this certain level where maybe you're not ready to hire an assistant, or maybe you do hire an assistant part-time or whatever it may be, or a buyer agent, or work a deal with an agent in the office. If I get that, if I understand you correctly, you just worked a little longer to build your business. You worked a little longer day, a lot more focus. So you got a lot more done in the same amount of time. Would that be fair? A little longer and a lot more focus? Is that the ingredients?
I worked tremendously more hours my first year than I do today at selling 550. So I knew that I worked 7 days a week. Typically, I would say on average during the 5 days a week, I'd probably work about 12 hours a day. On the weekends, I would work my weekend business. So it'd be more like a 6 to 8 hour day. But it was typically 7 days a week for about a year. And then I started tapering that back. So, but as my business grew from going from, 50 to 80 transactions to 120 to 150 to 210 to 280 to 300, so on and so forth, you have to keep adding other people in to allow all the distractions to stay away. So I hired people as I earned more money to answer all my phone calls and to check all my emails and to closing coordinators to answer any concerns that the files would have.
Okay.
So yes, I worked a lot more hours in the beginning, but that's what you have to do until you get it off the ground.
That makes perfect sense. And I know how hard you worked. Way back then, Mr. Bernie Gallerani was good friends with a gal up in Dayton, Ohio, and he would drive 5 hours north. 5. He had to get up at 4 a.m, drive 5 hours to Dayton and on a Saturday to prospect all day with this other great agent in Dayton, and then he would drive back 5 hours to Nashville.
Yeah.
Not many people do that.
That's how you learn.
To do what other people won't do and have what other people don't have.
Yeah, you can. I don't know if you guys can see the little sign back behind my thing. Here it says, if you surround yourself with 4 millionaires, you're bound to be the 5th. So
I like that one. I want that. I want one of those. Well, there is a lot of thought. And people should consider who they hang around with, because I know who you hang around with.
Yeah. Well, I just talked to a guy on the phone that was selling 300 homes a month. And I look at that and go, my gosh, that's a guy that I want to continue to keep connecting with, right? And so I would say, driving to Dayton, Ohio and hanging out with our friend up there, Denise, and I have an agent right now who I totally respect, and I know you know her too, Kim Musgrave from Paducah, Kentucky. And every single Friday morning, she leaves her house at 4:30. She drives 2.5 hours every Friday and has been doing it for 6 months from Paducah, Kentucky to my office in Hendersonville, Tennessee. She prospects with all my agents until about noon and turns around and goes home back to Paducah. And she does it every single Friday for the last 6 months. And I asked her, she came down this weekend, hung out with some other agents who came down to visit our office. I said, why do you do it? And she says, you guys give me such great inspiration and great ideas that my business is continuing to keep growing. And so, yes, I'm driving this distance, but I'm learning so much about my business. So anytime you can attach yourself to somebody doing better than you.
Look at the return on that. It's an investment in time, but look how much money she's probably picking up as a result of it. Yeah. Things that makes all the difference. And shadowing and hanging around with people that are doing a lot more than you in a lot more efficient way.
Well, and here's what's great, right? Is we talk about developing a strong schedule and staying in our prospecting time, and then leveraging our files to other people, and then holding ourselves to a high level of accountability. Those weren't things that I made up on my own. Those are all things that I learned by traveling to all of these different offices and meeting all these great agents. And so not one idea is mine. They all were stolen or bootlegged from some other great agent that I met. So I would just say to your listeners too, if they're not really focusing on meeting other people and they're outside of their market, here's what's great about the outside market. Your agents in your market aren't going to share a lot with you.
True.
The agents in the outside market have zero threat to that. So they'll give you everything. So I would say to any of your listeners, if you want to learn how to do it right, go find an agent on the outside of your market who will share it all with you, and then come back to your market and dominate it.
Shadowing is gold, and and our belief system is more willing to embrace it if it's right in front of us and we're watching it happen.
Well, so here's something to think about, because about a year into the business, selling 50 houses in a year, I wanted to find an easier way to do it, right? Like we all do. We don't want to work that hard, and so we want to find an easier way. So I jumped on an airplane, I flew to California, and I visited 3 agents up in California, one in Valencia, one in San Diego, and one up in Ventura County. And so I just flew out there, got a rental car, drove around, and I got back, I flew back. My wife says, "What'd you learn?" I said, "I learned that they all do what I've been doing, but they just do a lot more of it. And that there's no secret formula to being successful other than rolling your sleeves up and going to work. The only way they all did," these were all mega agents selling between 200 and 800 homes a year. And I was like, I just am not going to get out of prospecting and lead generating as much as I would like to. It's not going to happen. So
it's all right here. It's all right here. That the mindset, mental toughness. And what like Pythagoras said, I think he was what was he, a real, Nigel, was he a realtor back in like Rome or Egypt or somewhere, Greece? Yeah, anyway, Pythagoras said, take the road that's best, no matter how rough, and soon it becomes easy and agreeable. I mean, it's got, as tough as that is for people out there, if you do it often enough, after a while, you're like, it's automatic and you're wealthy.
Well, I think, the challenge with our team members is it's interesting because we have a minimum standard that you have to sell 24 houses your first 12 months in our system, 36 within year 2, 36 in year 2, I should say. And the challenge with them is they're not used to working this hard. So I always tell them, listen, you're just not used to working this hard. How you do 24 is really easy. But what the tough part is getting yourself to commit to working this hard. And when I mean working this hard, I'm just telling them to work 40 hours a week, but they have to work for 40 hours a week. And to see how much money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, these agents on our team make. Like I tell them, in order to make $100, $200, $300, $400, $500,000 a year, whatever it is that your goals are, that is a lot of money. And there is a ton of smart people that work a lot harder for significantly less money. And I'm not sure why anybody believes they could get in the real estate business, try to earn that kind of money, and not have to go to work for it.
I mean, there are surgeons that make less than a lot of the people that prospect on your team.
I mean, it's crazy. I actually, for my team, I Googled the top paying professionals in the world, like the professions. And of course, a doctor was at the top. It was like $200 and some odd $1,000. I made that last month, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, that's their income, right? And then they had, you had a pharmacist making $130, and then an astronaut made $86,000. I mean, they got a perk because they get to go to the moon, but their salary was like under $100,000. If they were a top astronaut, they made like $120. And so you look at all these top professionals, and you look at real estate agents. I mean, look at the opportunity we have, Ren.
It's huge.
Earning $500, $600, $700, $800, $1 million a year. And all we have to do is go to work, figure out how to stay focused on lead generating, find an opportunity to leverage our time to doing the work that is not generating income, like servicing files, doing that at a time that fits into that time and not into the prospecting time, and stay focused on our goals. And everybody could make $500,000 a year because there's way too much commission dollars in our industry.
I know, it's a wonderful thing. And what's that expression? I can't remember who said it. Sales is the highest paying job in the world if we're good at it.
and I would actually change that a little bit, because I don't think we have to be really good at it to make a really nice living. We just have to work towards being better at it, and we'll make a really nice living. I said this to you when we did one of your other shows one time, and I said, success is not convenient. And what happens is people get into our business, or probably any business in general, and they go in there and they say, well, this just didn't work out for me. It's like, you can't expect success to jump into your calendar and just show up. You have to, success isn't going, I only want to drive 5 minutes to work every day. I want to be home by 4 o'clock. I don't want to go to work till 9 o'clock. I don't really want to speak to that many people. Success just doesn't show up that way. You got to go outside the box. You got to do all the things you don't want to do. You got to be uncomfortable, because if you aren't successful and you want to become successful, you have to change your behaviors. You have to feel uncomfortable. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to fail forward. And that's always the challenge with people in this business, realtors especially, because they get into business as independent contractors and they just don't want to work. The problem is not, they just don't want to work. And it's like, if you learn to work, Mike Ferry says this all the time, if you just learn to work,
yeah, well, I think a lot of people won't do it unless someone requires them to be there at a certain time, requires them to do certain things, and then they get paid. So, but they won't do it for themselves. They'll do it for other people, but they won't do it for themselves. It's an interesting mindset.
We have a recruiter for our team, and I was listening to some calls that she had, and a lot of these agents she was talking to, and I was listening to this one, and he says, yeah, I'd like to improve my business. And she says, well, if Bernie can show you an opportunity to increase your business by 25 to 30 home sales per year, would that be something you'd be interested in? And the guy's like, well, I don't want to work that hard. But let's not talk about the work. Let's talk about the money. Would you like to make the money, and then the work will follow, right? Or if you want to do the work, the money will follow. But it's always a challenge, I think, to getting people to understand. But I want to answer your question here: is how do they stay on schedule so their deals don't run out and there's not any deals left? I think they just have to stay committed to that time on the phone, whatever that means for them.
Even in June and July, even in late, because mid-May through June, they stop. They just stop, which is interesting to me because the public, the public is more ready than ever to do business, but the agents stop talking to them in the prime months.
There's more and more realtors getting into this business and less and less professional people. So if you just become a professional person in the industry you're in, you'll dominate in the marketplace because your competition is no competition. The competition is with the ones that are not competitive at all. They're all fighting amongst each other to try to get a deal. When you're a professional person and you show up every day and you do the work the way it should be done, there is no competition.
I know, it's a wonderful thing, folks. It's gold. Where are you going to be able to make $1 million a year like that TV show? Who wants to? What was that $1 million? What was that thing? Pyramid or whatever? But where can you make $1 million a year every year in our business? Last question, Bernie. When because you are listening to what people are saying on the phone, and then you're pausing and saying, what if you change your approach here or there? So there's bound to be some common things that you're noticing that people do that you have to often help them slightly shift the way they're approaching an expired or for sale owner or a recent listing or sale or whatever it may be that they're talking to. What are you running into that could help our folks out there? Anything that's commonly not being done in the best is best practices that you.
Is your question, how do I coach my agents, or if I'm on the phone talking to?
Are there common things you hear people doing? Like maybe they're not mirroring and matching. Maybe their response pattern, they're just like and then lose the client because they're not doing repeat plus really strong approval or whatever it may be. What is common? What are you running into that you're able to help them with? That's commonly a common thing that they're doing, and they don't even know that they're doing it, because there are people out here that are doing things and they don't know they're doing it until somebody comes along and helps them.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So yeah, I agree. Marrying and matching is super important. Repeating and approving, voice inflections, upswings, downswings, those are all important things, right? And for some of the listeners are going to say, well, I don't understand what that means because I don't really focus a lot on what upswings or downswings or repeating and proving. So for example, if somebody says, if you say, hey, when you sell the home, where are you planning on moving? and they say, well, I'm going to move to Florida. Florida, well, that's exciting. What's taking you to Florida? Well, I'm going there to be near my grandchildren. Grandchildren, well, that's awesome. And what's your time frame? My time frame is 90 days. 90 days, well, good for you. So you have to repeat them, because if you repeat them.
Repeat plus really strong approval. Yeah, because, and a lot of them don't repeat. They just go, okay, yeah.
So that's another thing too. And so I'll add that. I say, learn to repeat and improve. And those are things that I coach my staff on all the time. And I'll say, listen, I didn't hear you repeat. I didn't hear you get excited about that. I didn't hear you use an upswing or downswing. So those are things we all coach on. The other thing I think is pretty critical is a lot of people make a ton of mistake at not identifying the personality style. So for example, if you're dealing with an analytical, how do you have that conversation over the phone to get them to trust you to come to the house? If you don't identify their personality style, you're losing about 25% of business in a year because you're not adapting to that, right?
Yeah.
25%.
No, they should learn, because there are a lot of personality style things. There's DISC, and then there's social styles. You can go on to Amazon, type social styles. Larry Wilson, I think it's Wilson Learning. They say have a book. There's, but learn that, folks. Learn that. That's a great thought, Bernie. That's a great thought.
Just for your listeners to think about, it's something that you have to study to understand. Mm-hmm. So it's like in having this conversation with you just now, or having this conversation with you now, someone might go, well, what does he mean? I would say take some time to study how people pick up the phone and the conversations you're having with them over the phone. The longer you keep them on there with tonality, upswings, downswings, approval, repeating, the longer they're on the phone, the better chance you have to identify a personality style. When you identify a personality style, you could use trigger words that make them accept you where you normally would not if you didn't identify that. So this learning to get better on the phone is really a business in itself. You have to understand that we're dealing with personalities and people, right? We're in the people business. We're not in the real estate business. If we can identify that we're in the people business, we're in the people business. The people own the real estate, and unless we can adapt to them and understand them and work with them in a manner that gets them to trust us, we can never get the opportunity to list or sell their home or work with them as a buyer.
True. That's well said. Because that is it, folks. So hopefully there's been some good ideas on here that'll help you, because spring is coming. You're going to build up a lot of inventory. And are you going to cycle, or are you going to be consistent? Are you going to work on your people skills and get really strong at building rapport in that first 7, 10, 12 seconds when they say hello? Are you going to be committed? Are you going to work a little longer, a little harder, a little more focused? And hopefully you got some good ideas today. This is great, Bernie. Thank you.
I always love working with you.
So 87 people are going to be down there shadowing with you next week.
Well, I think you've been up shadowing a few times with other. You brought a ton of agents to my.
I have learned so. Every time I go down there, I learn a lot. I really do.
It's always a pleasure working with your company.
You want to see success? That's right there, man.
And I love Vulcan7. As you know, I've been a Vulcan7 user for probably 8 years, maybe. 7 years?
Yeah. We appreciate that. You got to have good. You got to have the tools of the trade, for darn sure. Good deal. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Thank you, Bernie, and we'll have a great spring and summer. And I'll catch up with you real soon.
Thanks, Ren.
Pick up our conversation where we left off.
Great.
Thanks again, everybody. Boy, what a great interview that was. If you're watching on Vulcan7 and you want to get involved with the Lead Gen Facebook group, they are at facebook.com/groups/got-objections. And I want to thank Aaron Wittenstein, who runs that group. He's a real giver. And he runs a program called trajectorynow.com. So you may want to check that out. And finally, if you're watching on Facebook and you are not yet involved with Vulcan7, make sure to sign up at vulcan7.com/lead gen for a special deal. And then I've got the secret you've been waiting for. There is a secret sauce in what everybody who is successful does. And I happen to have Bernie's. What he does after he has done his lead generation and it's around lunchtime, he goes and gets some delicious Graders mint chocolate chip. Now it's the mint chocolate chip for listings taken. If you, the other flavors are for working with buyers, and that's fine too. They've got a great black raspberry. They've got some exciting flavors. Peach comes up in July, so you're gonna want to check that out. But if on the listing side of the business, you want the mint chocolate chip. If the listing is slow to sell, dig a hole in the front yard, bury it upside down, and that listing will sell just like that. So you can buy graders anywhere in North America. Just go to graders.com and look at the store near you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. And have a great week. We'll have another exciting guest.